got some...
Expelled? Right. We've talked a lot about Expelled in the past. I know you guys went to see it, and I didn't.
I haven't.
It was a movie.
No, I haven't.
It was a movie. He was talking about me going to see it. It was a movie. Expelled was a movie that Ben Stein put out and or was part of, that essentially made the claim that intelligent design and creationism have been expelled from the halls of academia.
Right.
And the answer is yeah, they have, and for damn good reasons. Because when we're discussing science, intelligent design doesn't qualify.
But I read too that this is going to be shown to like church.
Groups, the movie came out.
Focus groups, staff people for politicians, and this is something that can go on for years. You know, that people can be watching this.
Yes,
movie. It's like
it's
an hour, like hour and a half long or something, where you can fit it in between coffee breaks or whatever. You know.
No, it's a long enough movie.
So
where,
that's
not a coffee break,
to watch out for.
But it is a big steaming pile of misinformation that's going to be misused in order to promote an agenda. The movie goes beyond just the claims that intelligent design's been expelled from academia, and that certain people have been fired for even presenting this thing, and shouldn't we be promoting openness in science? And the fact of the matter is, that's where the movie lies. Just flat out lies. Those people who they weren't fired for their intelligent design ideas. Science isn't a thing. The scientific process, and the scientific community uses the scientific process. It is self-correcting. It is not only not closed to, but it encourages criticism and inquiry. But it has very strict guidelines for what qualifies. You don't just get to walk into this
claims,
scientific study group that has this established theory with evidence for it and say, you know what, I kind of get the feeling you guys are wrong, and it's because this leprechaun whispered it into my ear. And I think that if you don't consider my hypothesis as equally valid and give it careful and equivalent consideration, that you're just being closed-minded elitists. Well, you know what? They are. They are being elitist. They're not being closed-minded. They're being elitist, and there's nothing wrong with that.
One of the things that I read in the criticism of the movie was that for all their whining about how it wasn't included in schools, there was not 1 minute of the movie actually devoted to making a case for intelligent design.
That's a very good point.
Actually,
there you go.
You know, actually presenting any kind of scientific reason why it should be presented in class.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll let you guys go, and
okay.
maybe,
Thanks, Pete.
Somebody else will get on there. Okay, sure.
There was a question picking up on something I said earlier relating to Richard Feynman about when I mentioned cargo cult science. Real quick, although I've done this topic in depth, I think, but there were some cargo cults in the, I forget where, but somewhere out in some jungles somewhere. During one of the world wars, Americans would fly planes and use, like in Tana Island, says the studio. Americans would fly planes in, and they'd bring all kinds of goodies, which were collectively known to the natives as cargo, you know, food and clothes and medicine. And the natives would try to set up these fake runways and control towers so that they could